If you like plays or poetry, you're going to like this. Next month, you can see The Belle of Amherst in Southport. Carolyn Stringer plays Emily Dickinson in the play, and Ken Greenman is the director. Thanks so much for being here.
Good to be.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about The Belle of Amherst.
You want to go first?
Well, it is the play about Emily Dickinson, the famous poet who lived from 1830 to 1886. And it's presented sort of as if you were visiting her home in Amherst, Massachusetts. And when she was just a couple years before her death. So she relates the story of her life through a series of little vignettes and her poems. So it's just an interesting look at a person who was not famous at all in her lifetime, was not known at all in her lifetime, but later became arguably the most famous American poet. So it's
interesting.
Yes.
And it's a one-woman show, so it's just you.
Yes.
How's that been for you? What were the challenges of doing that?
Well, firstly, it was just learning the material.
Yeah.
So when Ken first presented it to me, I had forgotten that it was a one-woman show, because there are actually other characters in the play, but I'm, as the actress, speaking to them, and they're not there.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest challenge, was getting the material down, and then just learning to have that energy going and keep the play moving forward without someone else to interact with.
And Ken, it was interesting how you described Emily Dickinson as a poet.
She was a poet to herself for all her life. She published, I think, 7 poems out of almost 2,000 poems. And she kept them all in little boxes and little pieces of paper, and they all came very close to being destroyed at her death.
Oh, wow.
And what she did while she was writing those poems was take the structure of poetry then and exploded it, and then recreated her own things. When I was teaching, I used to tell my students that she was the original rap poet in America because of the way that she changed everything and used different kinds of poetic forms to write.
That's really interesting. And you guys said that you don't have to be a huge poetry fan to enjoy this.
That's the way I feel. I've always enjoyed poetry and read poetry. Ken is a prolific poet in his own right, but the story is just interesting because she did end up being a recluse who dressed in white. She was infamous in her time, not at all for her poetry, but for the way she lived her life. But when you hear the words that come from the correspondence, mostly that she had written to other people, and then of course her poetry, you see that she lived a very full life. She was just a brilliant woman, a lot of self-educated, and so it's just she had loves, all in the 4 walls of her home. She had loves and a very interesting life.
We could talk about this all day.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we are out of time, but I want to get to the details. When are the shows, and how can you get tickets?
The Brunswick-Little-Theatre in Southport is producing the play. Tickets are now on sale.
Okay.
Brunswick Little Theatre has its own website, and there's an art gallery in Southport, Ricky Evans, that sells those tickets.
Right.
And they're on sale now, and the play goes up the last 2 days in January in the evenings, and then the Saturday and Sunday for Saturday and Sunday of February.
brunswick-little-theatre.com. Yes.
Yep.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
you,
you.
Hannah.
If you have a community event or nonprofit you want to share with our viewers, let us know. Email newsroom@wwaytv3.com to get more information on scheduling an interview for Good Morning Carolina. We'll be right back.